Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library, and I in Massachusetts. And Jane just asked, "Where are you coming from?" Feel free to use the chat to let us know. Before we get started, I just want to say thanks to the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting all of these programs that we do, and to Jane for letting us share this program with other libraries because it's always fun to, you know, share with my fellow colleague librarians. They're all such good people. So as you know, we're just going to spend 30 minutes talking about a bunch of book recommendations that Jane has. And Jane is a best-selling historic fiction author herself. And her new book, The Women of Arlington Hall, is coming out June 10th?
No, I changed. It's August 1st now. So a
August
little
1st. That's
more
right.
time. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I was thinking in a couple of weeks. I was so excited.
yeah. We're getting there. But yeah, it comes out August 1st now. And I'll be putting up my events page. I'll have some online events and some in-person events in the New England area. I don't think I'll be going too far outside of New England for in-person events, but yeah, I'll keep you posted, janehealey.com. Thank you.
I will put that in the recap email because, of course we want to you're just such an amazing writer. So, and also an amazing reader. Like the list you sent me for this week is just probably the most dramatically different types of books that you've sent me since we started. So let's start right off with, and I want to say if you have questions for Jane, put them in the Q&A. I'll ask her. If you just want to chat with each other, feel free to do that in the chat. And make sure you put the books that you are reading and enjoying right now. And I will share that with everybody in my recap email. So yeah, let's get started. Your first book that you're going to talk about
Yeah.
is
The Artist of Blackberry Grange, The Artist of Blackberry Grange, not Range, by Paulette Kennedy. Paulette is a friend and also just a beautiful writer, like really great at atmosphere. She writes a lot of Southern Gothic, which is, it's historical fiction, takes place in the South. Gothic in that it has like sometimes it has a little bit of a ghost story element or a little bit of a horror element. Nothing like too gruesome or gory. It's more kind of like just like the mood of the story is kind of macabre and this one has just been doing so well. The reviews are amazing yeah, she's a beautiful writer. So I'm looking forward to it myself, and I highly recommend her other books as well.
so I saw that she wrote the was it The Devil and Mrs. Davenport, which was an amazing book. Um
Yes,
it she her writing is just so as you said Southern Gothic. It just like it gets you in the feels. You're
yes, yeah.
scared to be like, where should I be?
Yeah. And she's from the Ozarks herself. This book takes place in the Ozarks in the 1920s. It's like a family story, and she has such a good like you said, she's a beautiful writer, and like her descriptions are so amazing and setting and creating that like kind of dark, creepy mood to the story. Yeah, she does a great job.
Mhm. So, why? So you said this was set in the 1920s and in the Ozarks. So, and then she's from there. So, like,
Yeah.
are most of her books things that so she has some sort of like immediate sort of connection to?
Yeah, she usually, it seems, I'm not sure if she's going to pivot from this, but she does a lot that take place in that area of America. And because there's a lot of like, between the Ozarks, Appalachia, there's a lot of like ghost stories and, haunted, like witch stories and things like that. So she's got a lot of material to draw on, and I think she just really enjoys it.
Mhm. Well, I think it's funny because when I think of like Gothic, I think of the Moors of England, and the
Oh, yeah.
Ozarks has that same sort of feel to it of just like dark and mysterious. I love it.
Exactly, exactly. I know I went down like Ozarks and Appalachia like ghost story TikTok one night, and I was like I scared myself. So like and she knows how to capture that emotion of a like good ghost story in her writing.
Yeah. So, would you characterize that as sort of like a mystery or sort of like a historical fiction horror? What like is there a subgenre for something like that?
I think it's more of like a because it's not like straight horror. It's more like the mood, kind of the dark like horror mood without being like blood gore, that kind of, yeah, it's just, yeah, and I think that I think that Southern Gothic is like a subgenre of those type of books. I think she's like squarely in the middle of that subgenre.
Mhm. Well, it sounds great, and I love the cover.
Me
So,
too.
all right, let's keep going. And I'm seeing some great recommendations in the chat as well. Mad Honey, Jodi Picoult, The Frozen River, Ariel Lawhorn. So good.
Oh yeah, really good. Oh, so the next one, I was like, oh, you're waiting on me.
Oh.
Sorry. It's been a month. Okay. Where the Rivers Merge by Mary Alice Monroe. She's huge, as you know. This one is library and book list starred. She's New York Times bestselling author of like 24 books, I think. And this takes place in South Carolina Low Country beginning in 1908. And it's a dual narrative. It goes back and forth between 1908, free-spirited young woman who cherishes her family estate. Is her life is disrupted by World War One, and then flashes forward to her as a matriarch in the 1980s. It's getting all the buzz, and it's all, it's a very Southern story like Mary Alice Monroe is known for. And like I said, library and book list starred. So this one just came out today. Paulette's, I should have mentioned, came out May 1st. This one launched today.
Mhm. Now, Mary Alice Monroe is very well, like she's written a lot of books. I've seen her name all over the place.
Yes, a ton of books. And it's interesting because she's written like more, I think, like lighter contemporary
Mhm.
Southern fiction, and this one is more of like a heavy hitter historical fiction novel. So I don't even know. I'm not a huge reader of Mary Alice Monroe, but it seems like she hasn't written a ton of historical fiction, but this one she decided to go do a historical fiction novel. Yeah, it looks interesting, and the reviews are really, really strong. So
Mhm.
it says the novel is a tribute to the Southern landscape, exploring themes of love, sacrifice, and resilience.
Mhm.
So we'll see.
I would love to chat with her because she does, for me, is more of a women's fiction writer, like current contemporary women's fiction. So I would be curious to know like what makes her go back and forth. Um,
Yeah, interesting. I know. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's like comes from a family, her own family history. Not really sure.
yeah, well, like I said, I'm gonna have to contact her somehow and see if she would come and talk to us about what makes her do what she does. Okay, the next one just looks amazing.
Yeah, this
Oh
one.
my gosh.
And I like this list that we came up with this week because this one is called The English Masterpiece by Catherine Ray, because they're all very, very different from one another. I've done a lot of World War II reviews or like recommendations in the past, and this one is, I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch to say it's historical fiction because it's in the 1970s. But it's by Catherine Ray. She's a national and internationally best-selling author, award-winning author of 12 novels. Not all of them are historical fiction. Her last historical fiction was The Berlin Letters. Oh, and A Shadow in Moscow was another one. And this is about the art world in 1970s London. And it's called The English Masterpiece. It's about a young woman who's working in an art gallery, and they're celebrating this Picasso that was recovered and purchased after the war. And she believes that this Picasso is forged, and it upends everything in her life and the life of her boss. And she is on a race to find out on whether or not her hunch is right about the Picasso. So yeah, it looks really fun. It comes out June 10th. So yeah, this one looks like a really good summer read.
Um, so I have to say that what you said about the 70s makes it crack me up because I was looking at Jane knows I'm doing an online auction in the fall of historical fiction and more about that later. But when I started seeing historical fiction for the 80s, I almost like fell over. I was like, no, no, no.
No, that's a little too soon.
I mean, like, is there some sort of like, guideline about like what we consider historical fiction? Like, the copyright is 75 years. I mean, like, there's certain things that, you just sort of like think like, but I mean, the 80s were 40 years ago.
Yeah, so I know, right? So I was talking to my publicist about this because I get pitched a lot of historical fiction books for my podcast, and And she said the rule is like 50 years back or more. And I'm like, okay. I was kind of always thinking of it as like, I don't know, Cold War and back from there. But that 50 years back or more is, so we're kind of there with the 70s, but it hurts.
It does, it hurts bad. I refuse to believe that the 80s, even like the mid to late 70s, it just doesn't feel like it. But like I would think the Vietnam War, which was, in that like period there. So like Vietnam and before. But
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like The Women by Kristen Hanna definitely feels historical. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Oh my
so
gosh. Reading such
we'll
good.
see.
Yeah. No, I know. So like, if we keep doing this in like 10 years, we'll be like, all right, we'll allow the 80s.
Yeah, I guess it has to pass, right? I know.
So this next book just makes me want to travel. It just from looking at it.
Yes. Yeah. So Serena Burdick is a local author. She's a local Massachusetts author. This is, I think, her fifth or sixth novel. She's written a number of historical fiction novels. I'm trying to think, one of the ones that she was known for, um, I'll have to look it up. But A Promise to Arlette is her latest, and it comes out June 17th. It's another one that's getting a lot of buzz. And it was a Publishers Weekly says it's a beguiling tale. The plot unfolds at a breakneck clip, and Burdick artfully highlights the difficult choices her central characters made. And it takes place in part of it takes place in World War II, after World War II in France, in like Provence, which looks beautiful. Like you said, it makes you want to travel. And also in 1950s American suburbia. And it's really about the trauma, from what I understand it's the trauma after that people experienced after the war and the PTSD that no one really, it didn't have that. It wasn't called post-traumatic stress disorder then, and how this couple is kind of haunted about what they endured during the war, Sydney and Ida. And so Ida has to go back when she sees an old photo from the war. She has to go back and kind of go find her dear friend, and find out what happened to her and what happened to their relationship. So yeah, it's getting a lot of buzz, and the cover is beautiful. I love anything set in France, and I think it's an interesting time period to talk about, like post post World War II, and what people are going through and the trauma and the aftermath of it.
Mhm. And I think it's interesting that the setting is France and not, Germany or England or America, because those are the ones that we usually hear about in terms of like not just mostly like the war itself, but the wars themselves, but the the as you said, the aftermath. So I love that because it culturally it just seems like it would be a very different experience as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think this one comes out June 17th. And The Girls with No Names and The Stolen Book of Evelyn Aubrey. Those were her last two books. I because I'm talking, I was blanking, but yeah, she's a terrific writer and she's local, so it's always nice to support another local Massachusetts writer. So looking forward to this one.
I think your next book is yeah, and your next book is also a local author.
Yes, Wayna. Wayna is a friend. I'm doing her launch event in Lexington at the end of June. She's going to be posting about that. I think it's June 26th, in conjunction with the Lexington Library. This is the master jeweler. She is she's written a number of really great historical fiction novels. Her book, The Night Angels, was a Wall Street Journal bestseller, and I think an Amazon Charts bestseller. That's probably the one she's most known for. And it's about a young jeweler in 1920s Shanghai. So I love the setting, a really interesting setting. This girl discovers a Fabergé egg and returns it to its owner, who's a master jeweler, or a former master jeweler, for the Russian Imperial Palace, and he agrees to mentor her and train her, and it's all about like this dazzling world of jewelry and intrigue in 1920 Shanghai, in 1930 Shanghai. So yeah, it looks amazing. She's a gorgeous writer. One thing that I'm just like that amazes me about Wayna is English is not her first language, and she writes so beautifully in English. I'm like, how do you do that? Like, yeah, it's just unbelievable to me. So I'm excited for her. I'm sure this one will do well.
Yeah, I met her at she was actually participant of our first rom-com, and I didn't realize that she's actually more women's fiction, but she like played off, she was certainly able to participate in all ways, but like it was really interesting hearing her talk about her books and her ideas and where she's coming from and being in a like writing her own culture in a place that's so different from that, you know, um,
Yeah.
like not being an English speaker, but also like trying to adapt to being here and knowing, wanting to tell these stories, which I think is amazing. And she also had these really funny stories about how she picked her covers and how she was very, very engaging in life. So I was like, oh, her books are just have to be great.
Oh, they're really great. And she is so engaging and just like a lovely, charming individual. I had a event with her on Independent Bookstore weekend. So, and we were just chatting and chatting the whole way because she's just like so interesting and smart. And I'm psyched for this one, and I'm psyched to help her launch it at the end of June. It'll be fun.
So you'll be at the Cary Library with Wayna at the end of June, you said?
It's the evening of June 26th. And they'll be posting it on the library website soon. I'm not sure. I think they might have changed the venue though from the library. I'm not sure it's at the library. It might be nearby.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's her launch event, open to all if anyone's in the area.
I
Yeah,
have a link to it. I will include it in my recap email because, going to meet local authors is like the most fun because I think, sometimes we go after people that are traveling all over the country for a book tour, but like getting to know the people from your own backyard and realizing that like you're friends with Marjane Kamali, who actually wrote her book at the Cary Library in Lexington, her first.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah, Marjan's the best too. She's
yeah,
great.
like all these connections with your local community. So I'm a big fan of supporting your local authors.
I know you are. You're the best. You're the best at that, Mina. Thank you.
So all right, let's
Okay.
let's keep going because we have plenty of time, but I just want to make sure we don't run out.
Yes, so Typewriter Beach is the next one. Meg Waite Clayton, she's written a number of books. She's really well known too, New York Times bestselling author. Typewriter Beach, I love the cover. I think it's really cool. And I love that this is like 1950s Hollywood, which who doesn't love 1950s Hollywood? Set in Carmel by the Sea in Hollywood, an unforgettable story of an unlikely friendship between an Oscar-nominated screenwriter and a young actress hoping to be Alfred Hitchcock's new star. And it's all about kind of the 1950s. It's dual narrative again. It goes back and forth between 1950 and 2018. But it's all about the writers and directors and entertainers who were blacklisted due to the anti-communist craze, the Red Scare in the U.S. when everyone was being accused of communism if you were in the creative world, and so it's all about the Red Scare and the blacklist in Hollywood at the time. So I love that kind of that history. I think is going to be really interesting. And then there's like this relationship story and some secrets that end up being buried until 2018 when someone in the family of the screenwriter goes back and tries to find out what really happened. So there's like a little bit of mystery and glamour, of course, and yeah. So I think it's going to be a good one.
I would not have known that story from this cover.
Really? Yeah. Oh, interesting.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
people can kind of weigh in, but I would have thought this was a story about the Spanish Steps or something, or
Mm.
like Frida Kahlo kind of time period, just from the outfit and the hair and the back.
Oh, you know what I first thought of when I saw it was it looks like Grace Kelly from Rear Window. That's one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies, and so I felt like it had a little bit of a Hitchcock vibe. But I can see why you would think that because it doesn't really look like an American setting, and like the scenery doesn't look. It looks more like you said, like maybe the south of France or something like that, right? Like yeah.
Yeah. But now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, okay, all right, I see it. Especially
Yeah,
with
and I think she's going for like a brand because one of her last books, the Postmistress of Paris, it was also like a black and white with a colored typesetting. So I think she's kind of trying to stick to her brand too.
makes sense because so
Yeah.
it's easily recognizable by her fans.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that comes out July 1st,
Mhm.
that one.
And then I know the next book you actually have a physical copy.
I do for once. Yeah, I don't have a lot of arcs this month. This one, because Ellen Marie Wiseman is coming on the podcast, so they sent me this one. I'm not good at holding this up without it getting a lit. Okay, The Lies They Told. Ellen Marie Wiseman, she is New York Times bestselling author. She wrote The Plum Tree, The Life She Was Given. She's written several others that have done extraordinarily well. And this one, I think she picked a really interesting topic. So it's rural 1920s Virginia. A mother named Lena is a young immigrant mother trying to protect her daughter from the harsh realities of America's eugenics movement. So it's and Lena ends up being separated from her family at Ellis Islands and taken to the Blue Ridge Mountains. Eugenics, of course, was a dark time in American history in the 1920s, and things like forced sterilization was happening to certain communities, certain immigrant communities. I think it's a dark story. Like, Ellen Marie Wiseman is not afraid to tackle dark topics, but she's a beautiful writer, and I think this is one of these is really a timely and important stories about the immigrant experience in America. I think it's gonna be great.
Mhm. Wow, that sounds
Yeah,
really fascinating, but also it's good to know because then you can be prepared like emotionally to uh,
yeah,
read something
yeah.
like that. But it's such an important topic because it doesn't seem to ever really go away.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that yes, she's not afraid to go there with these topics, and she's an excellent writer. We were talking about authors and the author community. Like when I knew no one when my first book came out, Saturday Evening Girls Club in 2017. I didn't even know you were supposed to get blurbs. For people that don't know, the blurbs are like the little quotes on the back of books that other authors endorse you, and I didn't know any authors to ask, and like my agent asked Ellen if she would blurb my book, and she did immediately and sent me a love, and I will never forget that kindness. Like I love like I love being able to like pay it back and help, and support her in her latest book, because that was like just the nicest thing. For like, I was a debut and I knew no one, and she immediately said yes and blurbed my book, and so nice. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast in I think sometime in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you since we have a couple minutes, and I want to crowdsource this answer too, is um, what on a book cover actually will get you to buy or get a book out from the library? Is it the blurb by an author, a blurb by the publisher or a reviewer like a Publishers Weekly, Kirkus or whatever, or just the description on the back? So like for me, like I see all these author ones and I'm like, they couldn't have possibly had time to read all those books.
I know. And it is, there's a big debate. There was even an article in the New York Times, and there's been a couple articles lately about like the whole blurb process, and like authors blurbing authors, because it's really just like doing friends favors, and you have to have them, but then now it seems kind of like diluted. You know what I mean? Like you said, the value of it doesn't seem it doesn't seem to matter the way it should, because you kind of know it's just this like, I'll help you if you help me, blah blah blah. So I don't really like I read the blurbs only to see if it's anyone I know, but I really go for the back of the book description. I've always been a back of the book description girl. I mean, covers are nice. Covers certainly help. This one is beautiful. I think it's really like kind of atmospheric and gorgeous with the flowers, and but yeah, I always go for the back of the book description.
Mhm. Yeah, because I do see those blurbs all over, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, they got Krista Hanna, or ooh, they got, blah blah blah. But I never feels like they actually got that person. Like it seems like it was like you said, a favor, or their friends helping each other out, or it's just become a thing. And it seems like um it devalues our perception of the author's words because we don't know if they actually read the book.
Yeah, and I think that like I always read the book when people ask me to blurb, because I'd feel totally guilty if I didn't. And but I think it's hard, yeah, you do question like, do they really have the time to do that? And also, like, I mean, the point of the articles were like, and we should just get rid of blurbs because it takes up everyone's time in the industry, and it's like this whole, bartering thing, and it's like a waste of everyone's time. And if we just did away with them, but then no one's ready to be the first one to be like, okay, I don't need a blurb, So
I do have to say, I think that they sort of take away from the covers too, because they're often, taking up space where, because like the graphic design is on some of these covers is so amazing. And then
yes.
half of it's covered by like obviously the author's name in the title, but then like a couple of blurbs and you're like, eh. But I like the fact that people are talking personal recommendations. That is a really important one for me as well.
Same, yeah. And I think that like, my editors, one of her mantras is always like, you can do all the marketing, you can have all the goodies and all the blurbs and all the things, but if it really comes down to someone likes a book and tells their friend or their family or their bookstore or the library, that's word of mouth is everything still, I believe. Yeah,
Absolutely. Even as a librarian, we just have a couple more minutes, but even as a librarian, I know that if I tell somebody like, hey, I know you're going to like this book, or I feel like you're going to like this book, they're much more likely to read it than if they just see it on a shelf with like,
totally. Yeah, I completely agree.
yeah. Okay, so your last book is by another one of my favorite authors. Aside
Oh, yeah. And she's so nice too. Like all these nice authors that I'm talking about today. The Secret Book Society I love this cover too. This is very pretty. By Madeline Martin. I kind of, there's like this whole like trend, like my mini trend now with like books and books about libraries and books about bookstores and book clubs. Like, I don't know, like everywhere I turn, there's like another book club book that just came out. And this is about a book club in Victorian London in the late 1800s. Madeline Martin's huge. Like she's does a ton of historical fiction and historical romance and internationally best-selling. And her last novel was The Keeper of Hidden Books,
Mhm.
which was about a hidden library in the basically in the tunnels or subway system in London in World War II. This one, Victorian London, late 1800s, is three women who are kind of trapped by society and their marriages and expectations, and they receive a mysterious invitation to join this book club started by this woman, Lady Duxbury. And so it's all about what happens when they join this book club and the friendships and sisterhood, but also deep bonds, and of course there's some secrets and mystery to it too. And this comes out end of August, August 26th.
Mhm. I'm going to say that I think I agree with you that there's lots of books about libraries, librarians, bookshops, book clubs, things like that. But I wonder if it's because those places feel safe to people, a way to connect with each other when they're lonely, or, things that we want to value, like, and keep in our societies, things like that. I don't know. It seems like it's been big. I actually wanted to do a program on authors that wrote books that had bookshop in the title.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. I think it's twofold. I think it's that. I think that just the way romantic comedy is really big right now, rom-com writing is really big right now, like Abby Jimenez. And I think that these kind of bookstore cozier stories are also big. And also because when one of them does well, then generally some other books in the kind of, not that they're copying, it's just like, oh, that's a good idea. I can spin that or come up with, a premise in that kind of subgenre too. So I think it's both.
Yeah, and it's just such a trusted thing. And Madeline's the last bookshop in London was it was like probably one of my favorite books last year.
Yeah, really good. I love that one too. It was really, the characters were really good. It was World War II, but it was like I didn't know a lot about people like having to kind of live in the subway system of the tube system of London for a time during the bombings and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah. I mean, I do think this particular topic of historical fiction is so interesting because we've talked about how it makes things that are difficult more palatable for us to read and then learn about. And then
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but like I'll read something in a historical fiction book and I'll just go down a rabbit hole of research because I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. And I love the author notes and yeah, all of that. Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, it is 7 o'clock. Believe it or not, we got through all of your books. And Yeah, yeah, yes. And so I will send that list out to everybody, including everything that was in the chat. And Jane, we will not see you in June. We're going to actually have special guest speaker Carrie Marr, who is going to be sitting in for you because I think you were gonna be on book tour.
No, yeah, no, I'm actually, my daughter is graduating from college on this Friday, and so we're going on a family trip to Portugal that week. So I will be in Portugal,
Okay.
but I will be back for July. So, and Carrie's great. You guys will have a blast, I'm sure.
We will. But I will miss you and I certainly appreciate you handing Carrie over to me, poor thing. So
No, no, you guys will have fun, and I'll miss you too. And thank you, everyone. I mean, the number of people that show up every month is amazing. And thank you, everyone, for coming and supporting us. It's awesome.
all right, well have a wonderful trip and happy
Thank you.
reading, everybody. I will see you in a month.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mina. Take care.
You too.